folks, it's been a while, another week or so. I make you a promise that we'll start trying to put out some more videos. Last month or so, I ain't gonna lie to you, last week I was gone on a trip to Alaska with my wife. We went up there and went fishing. It wasn't so good this year. I'll go more into that in detail as we go along here. Actually on a pretty long drive. We're going down to Wairika. Right before I left, I had a boom cylinder apart on this feller buncher that I did all that work on. The boom cylinder piston sills fell. The owners had actually pulled it out and brought the rod into me with the piston nut and everything. Well, I had a 4-inch nut. I didn't have a 4-inch socket. I had a 3 3/4. I had a 4 1/4 and a 4 1/2. And I should have just known better anyway. But I had to try. You know, I never can do it without trying. Try to put a little heat on it and get it loose with my big 1-inch gun. I've got a pretty good 1-inch gun. I've got a big Chicago pneumatic 1-inch gun that still wouldn't take it loose. And ended up having to take that thing into Pape Machinery, and they had to break it loose. They've got one of those hydraulic benches that hydraulically removes the nut. He said it took 6,000 PSI to get the nut to break loose, so no wonder I couldn't get it loose. So anyway, I got that all back together, and I don't put them back that tight. That's stupid to put them back on there that tight. Take your 1-inch gun, and that was another thing. I ordered the socket, and that ended up being a royal cluster. I'm glad that the guys that owned the feller buncher, they got called out. They've got chippers. They got called out on all these fires, so they were gone on that. So they didn't need it at that time anyway. They didn't have any way to run the machine. So they weren't in a huge hurry. They're in a hurry now. But you can take those nuts and get blue Loctite, put on the threads. This is one of those steel lock nuts that didn't have any non-lock in it. Just a steel lock nut. Just put Loctite back on the threads of the shaft there, and just put the nut back on there, and tighten it down with a big 1-inch gun, and that'll be plenty. Never had one come loose, but anyway, I got to go down there and put this back together. The socket. I was telling you about the socket. Get lost in my complex story here. So I ordered a 4-inch impact socket off Amazon, and it was supposed to be here in like 3 or 4 days or a week or something like that. And it showed up. The tracking said it had showed up at the UPS Access pickup point, which is a store called Michael's in Klamath. Well, I went over there and it wasn't there. Of course, they didn't know where the hell it was. And all it said on my UPS tracking app was that damage was reported. Well, they didn't tell me where the package was or nothing. I finally got a hold of the depot in Klamath and found out the story that it never even made it to Klamath Falls. It was in Southern California somewhere, and they said package was damaged. I'm thinking, well, how the hell did you screw up a 4-inch impact socket? How could you screw that up? I mean, did you take a cutting torch and melt it or something? Anyway, she said, the gal at the depot said something probably got spilled on it, and they had to send it back. That was their policy. They had to send it back. So, you know, this took 2 weeks to get the socket. And by the time I got the socket, and then figured out that I wasn't going to be able to get it apart, and I had to run it into Pape and have them get it apart. And then I went over there to get the seals, which he told me he had, which he didn't have. And then we had to order those. By the time I got it together, I had to go. I mean, it was still on the bumper of my service truck when I left to go to Alaska. So anyway, then I had a bunch of hand equipment break down as I was leaving. Oh, you got cows out on the wrong side of that fence line coming up against the highway there, partner. That's not good. But we went to Alaska. We had fun. The fishing wasn't as good as it was last year. Last year it kind of spoiled everybody because the salmon run, we got there a little bit earlier in the season. We were a little late this year for one thing. The other thing that really spoiled us last year is the conditions were just right. It was nice and sunny, beautiful weather. This year, they had had like 2 to 3 weeks of consistent rain, and I'm telling you, that river was at flood stage. I could not believe the amount of water in that river that was flowing. Where we were standing last year in the river, we would have probably been over our heads. You know, it was way up there. We went on a fishing guide trip up the river, clear up. You go up by Soldotna, and you go up the river, you'll go past a bunch of houses, and then there's actually a Federal Reserve, Federal Wildlife Reserve above where all the houses are, and there's a lot of fishing that goes on up there in the reserve part. And as we were going up the river, you could see where the water was all the way up into some of those people's yards that had houses on that river. Yeah, it was pretty wild. So that was another thing that really hampered our ability to fish. We still caught fish. We didn't bring back near as much this year as we did last year. I actually caught a 25-pound king salmon, but had to throw him back because the king salmon run was really bad, so you couldn't get it. It was a catch and release on those. And I think we were limited to 2 silvers a day. You can catch 3 reds, sockeyes, and you can catch 3 stumpies. They're very other species, but the silvers you can catch 2 a day. So, which, you know, the one day I only caught 1. We went on 2 different trips, and then one day I only caught 1. And then, you know, I'm not the expert fisherman like a lot of these guys are. I don't fish very often. You know what I do, and you're seeing it right here. I work. So I get a kick out of going on some of these trips, you know, and you get these guys. We were on this one trip, and this guy, he was kind of arrogant, you know, that went on our first trip. Was not the guy wasn't. It was one of the guys that was in our boat with us. He had this other guy with him, you know, and this guy's some rich guy that owns a bunch of businesses that, you know, that all he can do is talk to you about. That's all he does. He's a rich guy that has a bunch of money, and that's all he does all year long is go on fishing trips and hunting trips. You know, yeah, I hope you're good at what you do, because that's all you do, you lazy fuck. You know? So, I don't. I'm an independent guy. I work. I have to provide for my family. I don't have piles of money sitting around that I can just get on a plane every day and go fishing. You know? So I just get a kick out of these guys that they're really confident, overconfident in what they do, and just arrogant about it, you know? You know, and that's the thing, that you know that if you ever took him out of his world and put him into mine, he'd be lost. You know, so you just got to keep that in the back of your head. Just kind of don't be boastful and arrogant like him, and just go along about your way. But it is what it is. I realize, especially in America, Americans are probably the worst about being arrogant. As I was in the Navy and went all over the world, I realized a lot about the country that I resided in, that Americans are probably the most propagandized and dumbed down people on the whole planet, and really arrogant about what they do. You know, there's a lot of people that are a lot better at doing things than they are. I mean, hell, the evidence is right there. Just look at Pakistani truck. Yeah, you can say all you want, they're in a third world country, but I'll tell you what, those guys can do a whole lot more with nothing than any of these clowns over here can. You know, and the bad thing about this whole situation, guys, is you should probably look and start learning how to do things like that, because that's where you're heading right now in a rapid succession. So you're not going to be able to go down to the store and just buy your part whenever you want to. You might actually have to learn how to fix something. So that being said, anyway, I'm going off on a rant. Anyway, I'm going to go down here and sling this rod eye cylinder into this feller buncher, and then hopefully all is well, and then head back up the hill, and I got a whole bunch of shit to do back in the valley.
so I guess we'll just leave it alone until we get it in there.
straighten it out. Okay. a week off, but I'm winded. Using that rubber mallet, I didn't want to beat the end of that eye up with a, a regular sledgehammer. Whew. There's all the bolts for it over there. Just got to get it in, get the gland started, and I can suck it the rest of the way in, and use the machine to pull it in. Okay, let's see here. Slick up here, falling my ass. What the hell they got going on here? This must be for an accessory. There's no O-rings. Huh. What exactly do they got going on here? I'm not really certain right now. So that goes to that end. What the hell's going on here, huh? I don't really know. Where'd this go? Like that, huh? So it must have went up here. They got tight too. Okay, so O-rings are going out of this. Wonderful. I don't know if I got any. Well, so that's gonna go down here. Just like that. I didn't take it apart, so one of those deals. I think I'm going to save that one. It's a little longer bolt. A little bit longer. That one's a little longer too. I gotta find some O-rings here. Well, you know what? Maybe they're in the plugs. Maybe they put them in the plugs. I bet they put them in the plugs. Let's see here. Get some wrenches here. I bet they put them in those plugs. Well, good. Sorry I didn't get to finish that part of the video. I think I probably got shit all over me from working on that. got the cylinder eye, and me and the owner showed up, and we got it back in there, and this son of a bitch still wouldn't act right. The boom wasn't acting right, and you know, still wasn't going down. Well, the spool, we took the VW18 valve apart, that one spool out. We took the end caps off. The end caps got the springs in it that center the spool, and something went through that valve. There were 2 spots on that valve. We had to beat it out of there with a punch. About 2 spots that long that we had to take emery cloth and clean that spool back up, get the rough spots off of it. And then I had a Bitch Buddy board brush. I took it in there and just ran it back and forth, and kept taking the spool in and out of it until it got freed up, and we got it all back together. Boom raises up and down now, but I'll keep a little bit more video going today. Will video. I got all kinds of crap that I got to go do. I'm not sure. I guess I got to go to a T8 420 that no air conditioning. Maybe I'll do that. I'll call that guy and ask him where the hell it's at. But I'm gonna head out there and do that next. So those guys there can get that on the low boy and get to the next job. Alright, anyway, I'm sorry about the feller buncher. Just I had more videoed on it than I just realized that if you push this button here on the side of this camera too many times when you're, you know, sometimes it doesn't shut off. If you don't hold it long enough, and all it does is switch modes. It switches into camera mode, and all I did was take pictures every time I recorded, so kind of a screw up on my part. Anyways, I'll show you a little bit about, I'll just put a little bit of here and there of what I did today. We'll get you a good long full video. Anyways, I'm heading out to a T8 420 that's got no air conditioning, supposedly. Then I've got a 7830 John Deere that's getting hot throwing a code. I almost guarantee it's going to have an ECU 110 7 FMI or something like that, fan clutch. And then I got to go start tearing the header apart on one swather. I got a spring pack book on a bell wagon. Tomorrow morning I got to take off and go to Dan Decker's to Lakeview, and his 9880 bell wagon's shifting hard and acting up. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Anyway, so I'm going to go over here and see if we can find this tractor. Alright, so scratch that. The T8 420, that was no big deal at all. Evaporator core was just, there's a really, really dirty field. They're doing groundwork right now, and evaporator core was plugged up with crap. So yeah, I've been eating some dirt, man, and you can tell. I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but the wind's blowing like crazy, and there's just dirt blowing everywhere. So anyway, so what I got to do now is I'm heading out to a 7830 John Deere, and it's getting hot to an ECU code, which I can almost bet the fan clutch is bad on it. So that's where we're heading next. Head out to 7830, then maybe I might make it to this one ranch over here and start tearing this header apart. I got to get that one ranch, both swathers are broke down, there's a rake broke down, and the bell wagon's got a broke spring pack, that W103 New Holland, and then it's got, gotta call those guys. I gotta call them, see if those spring packs showed up. But anyway, yeah, the W103's got a broke spring pack, and then the suction line, the bung where the fitting goes into the bottom of the tank's cracked. We got to weld that up, and then those guys are pretty tough on shit over there. I mean, they called me a week before I left and said, hey, this bell wagon's banging, if something's knocking in it. Well, I drove over there and looked at it, and you know, because nobody was around when I got there, I just had to find it for myself. And the bolts were completely gone out of the front motor mounts. They had been beaten on it so hard. And the motor was just sitting there flopping up and down. This is a $270,000 machine. It's only a couple years old, and it's unbelievable how these guys treat shit. Anyway, I think all that stuff here is going to come to an end here pretty soon, though. Well, I'll be with you when we get to that tractor. All right, you guys stay here. It's not worth getting out here. It's just dirt. First thing I want to do on this tractor is pop this hood open, and if I see oily looking substance around the fan clutch, I know it's junk. I don't know if a guy can see much or not. Really hard to tell from this angle. You're not going to see it usually on the back side of the clutch anyway. Let's look from the front side of that clutch. Yeah, I really can't tell. Really can't tell. Let's see here what we got. Man, my right hand. It's just been cramping up all day long. Just, golly. It cramps up to where I can't even hardly hold on to the steering wheel. It hurts so bad. I don't know what the hell the deal is with that. Not enough water or something. 9703, that's steering system. That's a, let's go into settings. Diagnostics, codes. Operator not. Seat. No. Don't know why I did that. ECU 9703. Engine coolant temp high, ECU 110.15. Engine power derated. Engine coolant temp high, 110.16. One's going to be a moderate, one's going to be a severe. Fan speed low, imagine that. Alright, on these 30 series, to get into the addresses, you're going to push the settings button. Well, hold the settings button down, turn the tractor off. Hold the settings button and start it. No, piece of shit didn't do it. Oh wait, I'm screwed up. Trying to remember which one. You hold two of them at the same time. I think it's the, I don't know, what's the, oh, it's the settings and set button, that's right. There we go. I forgot how to do it. And get into your addresses. ECU, we want to go to address 40 on ECU. That'll tell us our fan speed. (1,036 RPM). 41 is desired. About 100 RPM off. Yeah, it's quite a ways off. Let's rev it up. So it's saying it's 1,300. It's averaging, it's hard to say, it's all over the place. It's wanting it to be at 1,200. And it's at 11. It's pretty close. Once the coolant temperature gets up there, it's going to ramp up the duty cycle to that fan clutch. See, it's lower than what's desired. It wants it at 1,200 RPM, and it's 100 RPM slower than what it's supposed to be right now. And that's without a load on it. So let me look and see what's next here. Allow the engine to run 3 to 5 minutes to allow time for the fan clutch to reach actual speed, which, you know, you're about half throttle there. it's at 1200 right now. And shit, it's 200 RPM slower. What it's supposed to be. So alright, so engine running at 21 RPM, access ECU address 60, enter 1500 and save that value in the address. Okay, so go to ECU address 60. And then 1500. Well, I screwed up. That's 15,000. That ain't 1500. Let me go back. Change this to a 1. Go back, change this one to a 0. Change this one to a 5. And then save that. I'll go over here. Bam! Scroll to address 41 and observe the desired fan speed. Allow the engine to run at this speed for a couple of minutes with 2100 RPM. So now we're going to go to address 40 and 41. So 41 should say 1500. That's what we selected. We actually put an input in the address and ECU address for 1500 RPM, so it should say 1500 on 41. Staying right where it should be. So say it's 7830, tells you to go to corresponding, go to ECU address 60 and set fan speed. If you got a 7830, which is what we got, set it to 2350 on address 60 again. Okay. Alright, we got it selected for 2350 RPM. Now we'll go over here to address 41. It should say, well, how come it says 2000 when I've got 2350? Should increase to approximately the table value plus or minus 100 RPM. What I kind of find odd is it's not even showing the selected value there, because I got a 7830 and it tells you right there to put 2350. How come it's not showing up there? Let's go back to 60. Yeah, what the hell's the deal with that? gonna sit here and watch it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for them to, the oil in that fan clutch to get hot and start acting up. It's kind of weird that it's not corresponding to what I'm putting in the input address. Because that says desired. Now sometimes, okay, they had this on auto, which that'll screw it up. For a little while, we'll see what happens. All right, so I took it out of the, I took the fan speed out of that, the input out, and it's running on its own now, and I'm about half throttle. I'm 1500 RPM, and look at it. Let's open the cab door up. Another thing we could do is we could check, make sure the serpentine belt, make sure there ain't something going on there. I'm gonna select fan speed while it's at half throttle, because it's all over. It's jumping. It's telling it wants it at 1200 for desired, and it's going from clear down to 1100, clear to almost 1400, back to 1100. So let's go back and select. Let's just go say, see if he's running in auto mode, which he was, it's not gonna run this thing at full RPM. I bet if he went and took it out of auto and just ran it regular, he'd be fine, but let's just say, let's just set it at 1500. See, it's gonna ramp it up right there. It'll hold it at the higher settings. Not really. It's supposed to be plus or minus 100 RPM. So 1500 engine RPM, you think it would let's go back. Oh shit, I'm going the wrong way. Let's go back and It's all over the place at about 1500 RPM. Oh. So this thing does, it's got a bad fan clutch. I mean, because that's really all that can go wrong when you got that fan speed low code and your radiator and charge air cooler and all that stuff is clean, which this one is. And another thing to look at too is what I did. I walked outside there and just popped the serpentine belt off and spun the fan hub, spun the tensioner idler pulley, and spun the idler and then the water pump and then the idler on the AC compressor. I don't see anything wrong with any of that stuff that would be maybe binding up the belt and maybe making the belt slip to make the fan clutch hunt. So I'm going to go ahead and get a fan clutch and get a new serpentine belt. The pulley bearing on the tensioner, it's not binding up or anything, but it just feels a little bit rough. I told him, I said, we better change it because it's not, if it's going to come back and bite us right on the ass. But so anyway, I'm going to head over to this W235 and see if I can at least get one flight welded on the auger. I still got to cut that one. I got to do 4 of them, but I can see if I can get one side done. And then we'll probably end up calling it a day. Alright guys, so on my last job for the day. I'm not going to even get close to being. So I got new converging auger flights. The auger flights. See, the auger flights are all worn off, and that's why this one. See, and I told those guys to clean that out while I was gone, and that didn't happen either. Anyway, so what's happening? This one's plugging up because the flights are worn out. The flight should be all the way down to here, and it's just wearing out. It's worn out. So I started on this end, and I called a buddy of mine because I haven't put any on one of these, and he said no, he cuts them in half and sticks them on. But I mean, these flights aren't really even bent correctly, you know. This needs to be bent more that way to get up against this, because it was up against this and welded to this. So I got it cut in half and I got it around it. I'm going to weld it back together here, and then I might have to get the rosebud on and just kind of tack it somewhere where I think it's going to work, and then heat it and then beat it over and then weld it to here, you know, same thing over here. I'll probably get this side hopefully welded together tonight, and then head home. I gotta do this video. That'll be about a 16-hour day by the time I get the video done. And then I'll go to Lakeview in the morning. So I gotta go to Lakeview in the morning, look at a 9880 Bell Wagon for Dan, and he's shifting right, and then come back. I got a cab over potato truck with an old N14 Select Cummins in it that's said it only goes to 1,000 RPM, and gotta look at that. And then I gotta go back to the house. I got another Rancher with a 6.0 Power Stroke that's acting up that he drugged to my house. He broke down in town with it, and then I'm trying to think. I got a New Holland T8 270, I think it is, that's got air conditioning problems. I got a New Holland Swather H8080 that's got hydrostatic problems going to the header that I need to do some more tests on to determine what's going on. I've determined with case drain flow test and you know, testing the high pressure system and the charge pressure on it, that the pump's fine, that there's something wrong with either the controller not sending the right voltage to the there's those Sauer Danfoss Series 90 pumps have a what do you call it, a EDC, electronic displacement control valve, on top, and so I got to check the EDC out. There's a manual override on it that I've got to activate to make sure in 100% that it's not the pump. And then eventually I got to get over here. There's Duke. This Bell Wagon over here. See, they broke the tongue on the raking too while I was gone. Somebody scabbed that all back together. It don't look very good. I don't know, maybe Dave came by and did it. He's probably gonna be, you running my welding down? But this spring pack's broke on this bell wagon right here. So I got to pull the spring pack out, and then this bung that goes into the back of this bottom of this hydraulic tank, the bung's cracked on this side. So, because it's all hard lined, you know, if they'd have put a hose on there, wouldn't have done that. But these guys are pretty rough on shit. This bell wagon here the other day, you know, the guy said, oh yeah, it's making noise, and I came in to look at it because they couldn't figure out where the noise was coming from, and I looked, raised the second table up, and the motor mount bolts were completely gone out of the front of it. You know, that's a $270,000 bell wagon, and they just treat it like they drive it like they stole it. They don't give a shit. It's kind of bad. It really is. So here's the flight auger on the other side. So I got to get in here and weld this together, and then try to get it situated where I can weld the rest of it. Oh, I got to turn the battery disconnect off. This big fancy electronic pile of shit. Alright. That should save me on that. This grass over here might be dried out. Might come out of there a little easier now that it's dried out. It was kind of wet. It didn't want to come out of there and get unplugged, so I think I can get it out of there a little bit better now. I've taken a torch when it got dried out like this, and I've lit it on fire and burned it out of there. Yep, I've done it. Alright, well guys, I'm just gonna weld this one flight on and get it kind of situated where it needs to be, and get this side done and wrapped up, and then I'm gonna head home and get this video out. So you guys have something to watch?